Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast, Neptunes. Today, we're going to be discussing how to be the change in the changing world. I'm Anju Shazo, and I am the founder of Mahatma Gandhi International School based in Ahmedabad, which is an alternative experiential learning school which is run under a trust of Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. I have with me today a very special guest who is co hosting this podcast with me. And I'm very happy and pleased to introduce Mrs. Anita Karwal. Welcome, Anita, to the show. Anita Karwal has been the Secretary of School Education with the Government of India as an ICE officer, and she recently retired. And Anita and I go back a long way in this journey.
Oh, yes. It's been a very long time. Just for the benefit of the listeners, I have two daughters. Of course, they are into their early 30s now. But both my daughters have done their schooling in Anju School. And that's why our friendship goes back to the 90s, actually, when you set up the school, if
Indeed.
you remember.
Indeed,
Yeah.
Anita. And it was thanks to all your efforts as a very, very dynamic young IS officer. And I came to you, and that is how this project started, with, of course, the support of the AMC. So, since then, we've been on this journey of education. And that's the reason for this podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the reason for this podcast is also this fast paced changes that are happening in the whole world. And the felt need for overhauling the school education system, not just in India,
Yeah.
but everywhere else also.
Yeah.
And also the fact that now we have, the support of the path breaking national education policy. And it is very important for people to be policy literate, our stakeholders to be curriculum and policy literate.
Yes.
And that's why this podcast.
Absolutely. And I think all the challenges that are coming in this very changing world,
Yeah.
it's a big challenge for educators, for parents, for students. What is this world? How are we going to prepare children for the world of tomorrow? It's John Dewey who said it actually. You can't prepare children for tomorrow with the pedagogy of day before yesterday.
Absolutely. And I think before we go further, it would be a very good idea to delve into the context in which we are talking about, the historical perspective, etc. Because you have a view on that and I know about it.
Yeah.
So perhaps you could talk to the listeners about the prison model.
Yes, absolutely. I've been talking about this since long, based on the works of Michel Foucault. And he wrote a wonderful book called Discipline and Punish, Surveiller et Punir in French. And that is what opened my eyes when I realized the similarities between the prison model of education and schools. So let's look at the list of things: uniforms,
Yeah.
monitor system, school bell, roll call, morning assembly, the seating arrangement of the linear seating, the cell structure.
So
And
that's called the cell and the bell model, by the way.
I did not know that. Okay.
But you know something, this prison model has a precursor. And this precursor is the Prussian model of education.
Okay.
So this was sometime I'm reading from a book which I wrote recently. It's
Of
called The No
course.
Silos, where I had done a lot of research on this issue. So somewhere around the late 18th century, we had Frederick the Great in Prussia, who was leading the armies to a lot of success. And he was the ruler of Prussia subsequently. He based his learnings on the education model from the standardization, uniformity, and drill training for effective war response. He just blunted it on the education system and believed that if you standardize everything, if you believe that there is no uniqueness in any child, every child is standardized, learning is standardized, education will happen. It obviously does not happen.
Yes. Also, this is a colonial legacy, isn't it?
It is.
And
It
that
is.
was part of the colonizers' perspective.
Yeah.
It is actually to subjugate a population. It is to standardize. It is to, in order to be able to better control.
Yeah.
So it's really a lot about controlling.
It's about controlling and actually preparing clerks
Yeah.
who could serve the colonial
Right.
masters. The idea was not to prepare innovative, productive, contributory children who can go out there and do their own startups, become job givers rather than job seekers. That was not the idea at all. So actually the colonization of education has been the bane of Indian education system.
Yes. And also, of course, related to all Macaulay, what Macaulay brought in.
Oh, yes.
as-
Yes. That is very well documented.
yes.
What Macaulay has gotten. And his idea was, again, to kill the culture and traditions
Yeah.
of India, because they are related to the education system of India, the Gurukul system,
Yeah.
which was based on the culture and traditions of India. And therefore, that system was not only very vibrant, it was very, very sustainable. That education was good from the
Yes.
learning point of view.
Yes.
He completely killed it.
Yes, and that was also part of the, not just the legacy of the colonial system, it was also part of their agenda. Because the Gurukuls or the local schools in villages were not under the control, the centralized control of
Yes.
the government that time.
Yes.
And the colonial powers wanted complete and absolute control on what was being taught. And that is how we moved away from contextual learning, things which were relevant to a particular population in a context, to something that is brought from outside, which is not at all relevant to the child's life, neither the language, nor the culture, nor the content. And of course, the delivery was based on that, the prison model.
Absolutely. So actually, it is decolonization which is the necessity of the day. But aside from decolonization in education, we are also right now in a VUCA world, as they say. VUCA standing for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In this VUCA world, there are so many disruptions happening. Let us look at small things. Look at the climate, how the climate is changing. We are having floods in Gujarat.
Yeah.
Apparently, we had 33% more rainfall than what was ever expected in Gujarat this time. We are becoming the Cherrapunji of the country now.
I know. And
Yeah.
the same thing happened in Rajasthan also, I believe.
Rajasthan.
I was there in Rajasthan
Yeah.
recently and it was pouring.
Absolutely. And this is climate. But if you look at technology,
Yes.
look at where technology is going. This whole world of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics. I mean, this is something which we had not even imagined, let us say, 4 years back. It's very interesting. I retired on the 30th of November 2022 from the government of India. And that is the day when Sam Altman tweeted about ChatGPT. That's the day it came into existence.
Wow.
So as a senior citizen, I would have been feeling absolutely helpless had I not tried to familiarize myself with these changes, because this is a huge disruption. I will become useless to the society unless I participate in understanding the disruption and integrate it into my learning, right? Aside from this, look at the economy.
Yeah.
Economy is now moving towards a gig economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we are the kind of people who've been through this, permanent jobs.
Yes, I mean, professions used to be what you're going to be, a lawyer or a doctor or an
Yeah,
engineer.
yeah,
And for decades, our children have
Absolutely.
been practically coerced and even conditioned to believe that.
Yes.
But today, so many jobs are becoming redundant very quickly, actually.
Very quickly. And gig economy is there, in which you need to skill yourself in a particular gig, work on it as long as it is required, and after that go to the next gig.
So which means also that you need really young people today. Now the youth need such a diverse range of skills. I mean, the era of specialization probably
Yes.
may be over.
Yes.
We might be needing to be more polyvalent, to do things
Yeah,
across a broad range of fields or
Yes.
domains, right? And I think along with that, I'd like to add that a recent report by WHO said that 25% of the world population is suffering from anxiety, isolation, mental depression. So this is becoming another epidemic across the world. And I remember in 2016, the Lancet Commission had stated that this is going to be a big issue in the coming years. And India, because of its young demography, is particularly vulnerable because our youth, there's a wider range of young people who are suffering from this. And this is an existential crisis now, a changing world, How do you be the change in the changing world?
Yes.
Children are not being prepared for it.
Yes.
Educators are not prepared for it.
Since you mentioned a fact and figure, I would just like to correct you there. I think the report mentions that there is a 25% increase
Oh, sorry. Yes. Right.
cases of mental
Yes.
anxiety and
Yes.
depression. Let me give you another fact and figure. There is this World Economic Forum, which we are all aware of. It has predicted that by 2025, 85 million jobs are going to be displaced by a shift in the division of labor between humans and machines.
Mm.
And 97 million new job roles will emerge.
Mm.
Can you imagine? We are looking at such different displacements and disruptions in the jobs that our children can expect to get. So if inside the classroom, if we are teaching the child to be a lawyer for the permanency of 45 years of their working life, it's not going to happen. The child will have to be multi-skilled, as you said, polyvalent, would have to constantly learn, relearn, and unlearn.
So this skill of actually learning to learn, is going to be a very important skill. I think
absolutely the most important
because
skill.
As a human species, we need to adapt ourselves very quickly, and that is our strength, as an evolutionary trait. But schools, I'm sorry to say, have traditionally, because of the colonial legacy, etc., have conditioned children into subjugation, so that all the curiosity, the intellectual curiosity, all the desire to learn, the fun, the motivation, everything is killed. And there's such a big, strong fear, the fear factor, fear of failure, fear of so many things which has seeped into children's minds.
And I would like to quote here from UNESCO. And UNESCO has stated that education systems worldwide are extremely slow to adapt to all these changes that are happening. So it's not as if we are facing this in this part of the world, it's there everywhere.
Yes.
And this is the background in which the different kinds of jobs that are coming up, this is the background in which the NEP has come in. So in the present day, while we have disruptions, while we need to focus on decolonization, while we need to focus on the rootedness of education in Indian culture and traditions and practices and pride, on the one hand, on the other hand, we have a path-breaking, transformative National Education Policy 2020, which actually integrates all these learnings and is a very, very futuristic policy with a vision. And to operationalize it on ground, as you know, there is a national curriculum framework which has come out in 2023. And if we look at the salient features, you're also aware, I can mention a few and maybe you can add to them. One of the most important aspects of the NEP 2020 is holistic education, where it talks about the mind, the body, the spirit, the ethics, the physical aspect or the psychomotor abilities of the child, the emotions, the thoughts. All of that has to be integrated together in the teaching and learning process, which I feel is one of the most important provisions. And also competency-based learning, using pedagogies such as experiential learning, project-based learning. It's absolutely path-breaking.
Yes, it is indeed. It's completely path-breaking, and I think it's time that educators actually got around to now implementing those changes. Now, it doesn't seem to be easy, perhaps, but actually we can easily, in the series of podcasts that we have, we can try to break it down, take the main aspects of these policies and look at it in terms of practice. What does it mean in terms of practice? What are the changes that principals or educators, teachers, even parents can make as parenting? Because even parenting styles will need to change.
Even governments, governmental organizations.
Absolutely.
All of them.
Yes.
Everywhere change is required. Educational administrators need to change.
Yes.
We cannot continue to work with the same mindset and the same set of tools and toolkits that we had earlier. If we want any transformation to happen at the classroom level.
And I wonder sometimes why this resistance to change, because look, we had the pandemic and for 2 years, we were stumped. The whole world came to a stop. And after the pandemic, we seem to have gone back to whatever the normal was before that in many, many ways. So it still hasn't sunk in that if that wasn't a big disruption, what else do we need? We need to really become so much more aware as not just as a community, but as a human species, as to understand what is it that we need for our children as a society to evolve and to have a fruitful life. And schools do not prepare us for life. Schools prepare us for exams. Schools are examination driven. And sadly, even if the exam, and I understand that that's an important part, it's at the end of grade 12. Why would I want to bother primary children? Why would I need to force exams and unit tests? And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, on this, I don't think that any more unit tests and surprise tests are required as per the NAP, right?
No, it's redundant.
Done away. Exactly. And still schools, I hear parents, friends whose children are in other schools or elsewhere, and they're always complaining about, I have this unit test coming up. And I'm like, for this young child, why?
I want to now go into another part of the discussion which will explain why all this is not required. If you look at the kind of emerging jobs, if we start listing it down, then one will realize that these kind of unit tests and rote memorization, these things are now redundant. It's not required at all. Let me take you through some of the possible jobs which are emerging. For example, and perhaps you could add to that, Anju, Chief Remote Work Officer.
Okay.
So we've been working remotely all through the pandemic, but now to manage that remoteness, etc., Chief Remote Work Officer, Genomic Data Scientist, Cyber Calamity Forecaster. We have drones, so we now need drone fleet managers, if you please. We need digital detox specialists because of the kind of, digitalization which has just taken over our lives. People are looking at their screens for hours together. Now we need a detox specialist. And like you always say when I tell you about this particular job, that we had heard of detoxing the gut, but this is the first time we are hearing about, digital detox. We also have circular economy designers. We have carbon footprint analysts. So these are the kind of jobs that are emerging. I don't know if I'm missing out some.
No, I made a list as well. So I found that there's a digital anthropologist. You can be an AI ethics officer. You can be a metaverse architect. Wow. You can be a climate data analyst. You can also be a quantum computing developer. And you can also be a sustainability officer.
So interesting. So Anju, tell me, just imagine if you were 10 years old again, or maybe 12, 13 years old, and in school today, and you were thinking about what would you like to be when you grow up. What is it that you would like to be?
Well, considering that in my family, my brother became the engineer and I couldn't, I think I'd become the prompt engineer and fulfill my parents' wishes. Prompt engineer, because I think I've been reasonably good with languages. And I think that would be then up my alley, to be able to create the appropriate creative prompts using, ChatGPT or the AI. I mean, as of now, I'm sure there are a lot of other things that I could think of. But what about you?
Before I go to what about me, I have this penchant for thinking up of some Bollywood song or the other whenever we are discussing something.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you don't prompt the ChatGPT properly, it's probably going to think, दुनिया करे सवाल तो हम क्या जवाब दें. सवाल ठीक होना चाहिए. The question has to be proper. The prompt has to be proper. Only then the ChatGPT will give you a good reply. Okay, so now coming to what I would like to be. I think I would like to be a human-machine team manager. Now, this is an emerging job role which facilitates collaboration between humans and machines. And this is something which is going to actually take over almost all organizations, including the government, in a short period, in the near future. And therefore, maybe if I was 10 years old again, I would look at this. This would be something really exciting.
Wow.
Yeah. So with this, Anju, don't you think that before we end the podcast, we should give a takeaway challenge to our listeners?
Absolutely. A little bit of homework, isn't it?
Yes.
In the true traditional style, yes. So, but this is a fun one. And I think it would be very interesting for the listeners to think about what profession would you choose today? And as another takeaway, to do something with your family, with your children in class or friends, just do a little bit of research. What are the new professions which have come up? And I think, Anita, you have some idea about where they can
Yes.
do this research, what kind of
Yeah,
platforms?
so there are a lot of tools online which are available for this kind of research. In case I could mention a few.
Yeah.
For example, LinkedIn, everybody knows about it. These are free tools, and it is possible for children to actually go onto that social media app and have a look at the kind of jobs that are being advertised, and those are very different from what we had thought earlier. You can also look at the World Economic Forum reports on the future of jobs, etc. And there are these online job boards, including from Google, which are free. And you can look at those job boards also, which actually give you a list of all kinds of new and emerging jobs. And it would be good to go through these kind of things and any other tools that you find. In fact, we'll be very happy to know from you how you did this research. What did you find? What are the new jobs that you thought of for yourself? We'll be very happy to know, and we'll be
Absolutely.
giving a link in the end where you could
Yes.
contact us and tell us about your experiences.
Yes, I think this is a very useful exercise, dear listeners, with your students and children or family. Please do update yourself on what are the new professions. It is mind blowing. We did a little bit of research, and that is why we made that the topic of this particular podcast. And now that brings us to the end of this podcast. So stay tuned to Neptunes. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Anita.
Thank you, Anju.